Hello, programmers. All right, I'm going to answer, you can walk through if you want. I'm going to answer all of your guys' questions from yesterday about programming. That was my husband, by the way. Okay, so question number 1. What does this whole, and then it's a little percent symbol thing do? We call this a modulus. Okay, so this is a type of division. So for example, if you have 10, that symbol 4, that's kind of like asking, well, 10 divided by 4, but it's not quite asking what's 10 divided by 4. It's asking what is the remainder if you divide by 4. So, well, how many times does 4 go into 10? It can go in 2 times, but you only get to 8, right? And so what's your remainder? If you have 10 and 8, there's 2 left over. Okay, for example, if we had 25 modulus 7, what would 25 modulus 7 be? Well, what's the closest to 25 we can get with 27? We could get to 21 because 7 times 3 is 21. So how close are we to 25? Well, we're off by 4 because, if we're at 21, we have 4 more to go. All right, so let me prove it to you. All right, so I just added a label here. It's in the center of the screen, and it just says 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this number, which I'm claiming equals 4, into a variable. So I'm going to call it my variable. And it's going to equal whatever 25 modulus 7 is. All right, now I'm going to take this my variable, and I'm going to put it here. And so now instead of displaying 0, it's going to display whatever my variable is. Oh, sure enough, it is 4. What if I did 100 modulus, I don't know, 3? Well, what's the closest to 100 we can get? If we multiply by 3, we can get to 99. So we're off by 1. So that would be 1. The biggest reason that we use modulus is we can use it to tell if something is odd or even, because if we're dividing by 2, if it's an even number, then it's always going to be 0. But if it's an odd number here, like 101, then it's always going to be 1. So you can use this whole modulus thing to test if a number is odd or even. Okay, next question. What are Booleans? Okay, you've been using Booleans already. These are just things that hold the word true or false in them. So you could say, is growing equals false. Or you could say, is growing equals true. We've used these a bunch of times. Anytime you set something equal to true or equal to false, that's a Boolean variable. It just always equals true or false. You've used them before. There's not really anything new going on with them. Just know that those are called Booleans now. Okay, so next question. How do you use this function, the distance function thing? All right, so distance tells you how far apart 2 points are. So for example, let's say we wanted to figure out what the distance was between this point here and this point here. I don't know if you could see where my cursor just was, but this corner and this middle point here. So what we're going to do is we're going to call distance. And I want to put the coordinate to this point. Well, that was 0, 0. And let's do this one right here. So that's 0, 200. Well, we know how far apart those points are, right? How many pixels is it from here to here? It's going to be 200 pixels. But this will actually tell us that. But how do we figure out what this number is? Well, what we could do is we could, again, set this equal to a variable. My variable equals, and then make a label. Okay. And sure enough, oh yeah, it is 200. Let's put a different point here. Let's say instead we want to do from 0, 0 to, let's do like a random point over here. I don't know. We'll go down 15 and we'll go across 15, I guess, and down to, I don't know, 180. All right, well, that time our distance is almost 180. It's like 180.62. So from this point to this point, the distance is about 180 pixels. Okay, so let's do something slightly more interesting. So let's do definition on mouse move. And instead of doing from 0, 0 to 15, 180, let's do from 0, 0 to wherever we put our mouse. So on mouse move, you can call this mouse X, mouse Y. We're going to put this here. Oops. Oh, all right. So it is telling us what the distance is, but it's quickly overwriting it. So it's just producing a bunch of numbers there over and over and over again. So what we could do actually is put this label up here and give it a name, like let's call it message. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change message.value. That way we're not producing a new label every few seconds. And let's just start out with a value of 5 or something. Okay. All right, so now that distance is changing. So it's always measuring from 0, 0. So now we're really close to, it's getting bigger, 62, 68, all the way it's over here. So it gets bigger and bigger. It's just telling us what the distance is from 0, 0 to wherever our mouse X, mouse Y is. All right, so next question. What about that angle 2 function? Okay, so for this one, I drew a little circle in the middle here. And what we're going to do is we are going to figure out what the angle from that circle is to our cursor, wherever our mouse X, mouse Y is. So the angle 2 also takes 2 points. So we could put 200, 200 here. And then we could put like mouse X, mouse Y after that. Mouse X, mouse Y. But this doesn't make any sense because we aren't in a function that has defined what mouse X and mouse Y are yet. So let's go ahead and add some stuff here. All right, so I added a onMouseMove function. And so I still kept my angle 2 here. 200, 200 is my point. And then I want to know what the angle from that is to my mouse X, mouse Y. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make another label. We're going to call it message. And let's set that, I don't know. Let's make it, so far it's just going to say 5. And it's going to be at 100, 100 this time. And the size is going to be 20. And so now whatever this angle 2 is, we want to set that equal to the message's value. Or we want to set the value of the message equal to whatever this produces. Okay, so let's hit run. And okay, right now it says 5, but as soon as I put my cursor on the screen, it starts giving me an angle. And ignore all the crazy decimal places, but right now it's roughly 0. And then if I rotate around that 200, 200, okay, well now it's close to 90 because I went, now it's exactly 90 because I went a quarter of a circle. I went 90 degrees. If I go down here, now it's 180, 270, and I get really close to 360, but then it starts back over at 0. So it just tells you what the angle is between your starting point and your cursor. Now notice, like, it doesn't care what the distance is. I could be all the way up here and the angle is 0. Or I could be all the way down here and the angle is 0. So it's just going to tell me what the angle is. All right, so what about that get pointer? It says get point in a direction thing. So this is actually pretty similar to the angle 2 thing. So this is what they gave you as an example. Now they tell you that this one weirdly produces 2 values instead of just 1. So we make sure we have 2 things for it to get stored in. Now we could put apples and bananas here. But since it's a point, bananas, I can spell bananas. But since it's a point and it gives you an X and a Y, it makes sense to label these something X and Y related. So you could say point X and point Y. Let's just keep it X and Y. Let's keep it simple. All right, so what this is going to do is it's going to give us a point that starts here from 200, 200. This tells us what angle we are from that point, and this tells us how far we are from that point. So if I created a circle, and instead of putting where I want it to go, I just put X and Y here. X, comma, Y. Let's give it a radius of 5. Why not? Oops, gotta take that out. That's not code. Okay, so it produced a little circle here. So just to kind of make it clear, let's put the middle circle on the canvas. So we're going to do a middle circle at 200, 200. We're going to give that a radius of 5 as well. We're going to make this one red. All right, so what this did is it created a point that was 90 degrees away from 200, 200, and it was 50 away. So what if we move this up to 150? What do you think is going to happen when I hit run? Well, this black thing is still going to be the same angle, so it's still going to be like to the right, but it's going to be farther away. It's just changing the distance. There we go. All right, so what if instead of this being 90, what if I made that like 200? All right, so now it's going to keep rotating farther around the circle, so it's going to actually be beyond 180, and it's going to be right about there, okay? All right, so last question. What about strings and adding things with strings? Okay, so we're going to make some strings. A string is just a word. You've used them before. So I'm going to make a string called word1, and word1 is going to be Jiminy. And then I'm going to make another string. It's going to be called word2, and that is Cricket. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a label. And for right now, I'm just going to put, it's going to say the word ball. I don't know. It's going to be at 200, my favorite location, and the size is going to be 50. Delete this before I run the code. Hey, I remember this time. Okay, but instead of saying ball, I want it to say word1. Okay, sweet. It says Jiminy. Oh, maybe I want it to say word2. Okay, sweet. It says crickets. But what if instead I put word1 plus word2? Well, sure enough, it goes ahead and it just adds those together. Now, I don't like how there's not a space in between this Jiminy and this crickets. So I could actually add another one here. I could do plus in between here. I could say plus and then put a new string like this. And my string was just a space, and then put a plus sign. So now I'm adding 3 strings together. Word1 plus this one that I just typed out, space, plus word2. There we go. Now we got a space in there. The str function just changes something into a string. So let's say instead of word1, we had number1. Let's call it number A. And number A equals 512. All right, well, if you tried putting number A here, that would actually work. But we could change it into a string as well. So we could say string number A. And it's going to change number A into a string for us, and that makes it so that we can go ahead and add some other stuff to it as well. So we could say like number is, and then put our plus sign there. And so that way we are actually adding, let's put a space there. It'll look even prettier. Now we're adding this string number is plus the other string. But if you took this away, if you try just doing number is plus and then put number A there, it's going to error out because like that doesn't make sense. You can't add a number and a word together. You have to have 2 words that you're adding or 2 numbers that you're adding.